What was I like as a child?
You were a lot, but like I really liked you,
Because your feelings are so big. They're just so big.
and I think I saw you as being like very powerful and very much someone I did not want to like make angry.
Oh, well, here's the other thing that everybody else in our family talks about that I'd like to get your opinion on. My big feelings. What do you think about my big feelings?
I'm curious as to what they meant by your big feelings.
You're a poet. Like you're just creative and passionate and feeling. And it's beautiful and terrifying all at once. It's like watching a tornado. Like you're in awe and scared shitless.
I remember you being devastated at times and not understanding why, and things grinding to a halt.
This is somebody who's important to me. She has big emotions, and I don't want her to turn them on me. I don't want to make her feel bad.
As we got older, I think I just got scared of you a little bit.
You were just angry.
And nobody taught us how to express that anger.
You are a sponge.
I think you saw the things. You would have been the town crier, right? You would have been the one, the sky is falling. And so when you would know something was messed up, you couldn't function. And so you were very aware of your surroundings in that sense.
And my perception of you as a child was that you absorbed it all and then put it all right back.
Mm-hmm. You know how other people are feeling. You take that in.
Yeah.
And so like that affects you. That doesn't affect everybody. Not everybody is as emotionally aware as like you are. And that also builds up because there's no good way to like
bring it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's say you've got a kid who's expressing anger. The question of to what extent are you supposed to be able to express that versus at what point does it get to be, come on, give us a break or go to your room.
I remember it would be an outburst until you got put in timeout. And then you would stay in timeout, I feel like, longer than you were put in timeout. And then you go, well, she's welcome to come out whenever she wants, but she doesn't want to.
You knew how to get what you wanted or express yourself in certain ways so that people knew you were there.
You had your own agenda, and it was best to not interfere with that agenda.
Very little things, like sand in the gear, would cause total meltdowns. And it wasn't clear when it would happen.
It's not bad that you have feelings, and everybody has feelings. So I'm trying to figure out like what is the difference in your head, and what's the difference in what people see, and what's the difference in what people are used to.
It could be some nights if we went to a restaurant you didn't like, you would deal with it because you would need, or you would have eaten at Jayanna's or whatever. You'd find a way. And then sometimes it was a hunger strike, and you didn't care who you took down with you.
Part of it, I think, is because you do press it down so much, like when it does happen, people are surprised because it feels like different than who you are.
To me, that I think says a lot, which is feelings were always bad. And I think that made it an easy way to dismiss you. Erin's having a fit. Oh God, don't talk to Erin. She's in a mood.
I think maybe if we were taught more like it's okay to have feelings, it's okay to show people you have feelings, that we would get used to it and don't bottle it up.
With the family,
we were never given permission to be mad at mom and dad or disappointed in them.
I remember times when I was just very angry or overwhelmed and frustrated and having big feelings. And I remember I would be so mad at whatever situation that I would just be sitting in the car in 110-degree heat. I would just be sitting there by myself, and everybody would get out and went into the house or whatever. And I'd just be like furious in the car. I was so furious, but I was just sweating in like my hot box, and I just had too many emotions.
I felt like no one else had control over them or could help me with them.
And just like imagining in my anger, everybody just like calmly going about their day inside, which is exactly what was happening. And having to work through that frustration and anger alone because I felt ignored.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So I think that there was a part of me that was really struggling with having these big feelings that I knew nobody else wanted to deal with or see, and they felt wrong or bad, but that made it harder because it's not as though I could really control them or I wanted to be having
Right.
them.
All right. Well, I'm sorry you felt that way. If I'd like to think if I'd known, I would have tried to fix it, which I don't know that I could anyway.
I think I was kind of shocked that you could have feelings and change what was going to happen to you. I mean, not every time, but like you could be like, this is what I want and this is how I want to do it. And your parents would like sometimes capitulate. And like not in a subservient way, just like, oh, our kid has wants and needs, and like we'll make changes to make that happen. And I was like, oh, she's so powerful.
Mom and dad weren't around for so much, and then when they were always in such conflict, and nobody knew how to de-escalate.
Your mom and I had such different styles of handling emotional outbursts and stuff. So we worked it out kind of between us.
I didn't have the support I needed.
I think I would have been quicker to try to offer whatever you wanted. I think she would have been on the go to your room side before I would have been. Or we would send you to a room and I'd worry about, am I trying to teach her to repress her emotions?
You got picked on a lot. My thing was, we're not going to let you play with kids who pick on you. Remember Janet down the street?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she was mean, and she hurt you.
And it was easy to hurt me because I was so open.
Yeah, and one of the Christensen girls hurt you. I mean, just because they could. I mean, they did. Katie also.
My cousin?
Your cousin, yeah, she was real bad to you too. And so I talked to your dad, and I'm like, we can't let her be bullied by these people. If they're going to bully her, they can't play with her. So in each of those cases, we had this discussion, and then your dad went to those people and said, Jackie says Erin can't play with your kid anymore. Carol Christensen stopped talking to me. Janet's parents stopped talking to me, and Wendy stopped talking to me. I don't know that any of them ever got over it. I mean, they were fine with Craig, your dad, but they hated me, which was sad to me.
I think there's also a thing in our family where the drama about feelings and the association of having those big feelings to me was really connected to Grandma Dale.
Yeah. Yes. As a negative.
As a negative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a borderline personality, I think. Talks of suicide when that wasn't really on the table. Theatrics and so on. She was extremely anxious and extremely dramatic. And I spent a lot of my childhood kind of rescuing her. You know, I was the Dale whisperer, calming her down when she was screaming and shouting and wailing and carrying on. And, that was my job, was to do that.
I want to ask you how that manifested for you as my father, because I was a dramatic child, right?
Just made me feel like I had more practice, I think.
And I didn't want to be that. So that's another part of that, like repressing it or like tamping it down.
Whereas mom's side of the family just keeps it all tamped down.
Yeah.
And how do you solve these problems is a question, because I never had a family that tried to solve any of these things. When I was in high school, I told my parents I was being bullied, and they were like, I didn't have a mold. I didn't have anything to fall back on.
Yeah, which is another thing. Right?
Exactly, which is not good either.
No, but it shows a control.
My parents were, as far as I can remember, always focused on my younger sister, on Jenny, and everything she did was great, and I just didn't exist basically. So
you had 6 brothers and sisters, so why do you think Jenny was the focus of so much attention? She wasn't even the youngest.
I don't know. I think maybe because she looks more like her mother, possibly. I don't know. She was very adept at reading our parents, I guess. She knew what to say and what to do and how to get their attention and how to get their affection and those sorts of things that I never figured out how to do, I guess.
Do you know, or do you have a sense of where my panic or anxiety was coming from?
That's a very good question, because I never thought about it. The answer was always Aunt Jenny. It was, oh, she's just has this in her. This is Erin. Oh, it's Erin. It's a lot, right?
It's interesting because as you're talking about Jenny, I remember growing up, you used to say that I was really her daughter, right? There was that joke around,
Yeah.
oh, I remember giving birth to you, but you're really your Aunt Jenny's child. And that was always a difficult thing for me because I knew that you had a tumultuous relationship at best with her. And so I didn't really know what that meant. So what did that mean to you?
That didn't mean that you were those things I just said, or evil, which sometimes I think she is.
I think that's where a lot of our like humor usage came in, like trying to make each other feel better, or just like diverting our attention certain places. Just sort of happened like that.
We were really only allowed to interact in ways that were humorous or funny.
That was the only, which is why we got mean with our senses of humor.
Yeah.
If we weren't in theater, feelings were a total pain in the ass when they're just trying to figure out what's the McDonald's order. But again, that I find very frustrating. If in fact, when they talked about your big feelings, the context was the negative ones.
My parents each had pretty negative experiences with emotions growing up, whether their own or their parents'. So my siblings and I learned that having big emotions was a really negative thing. We spent a lot of time trying to channel those negative feelings into humor when we could. And when I couldn't, next, I'll explore what happens when I exposed my big feelings to my friends.